old colonial powers are desperate to get involved. Now here's something concrete to back that up. Alan Fisher, Al Jazeera, outside the Libyan embassy in London.
Well, Egypt's caretaker prime minister says the priority for his government is restoring security in the shortest possible time. Essam Sharaf spoke to journalists hours after a new-look cabinet was sworn in. Meanwhile, Egypt's prosecutor has ordered the detention of 47 police officers, this for burning documents at several state security headquarters. Egyptians have been trying to get access to those documents and the information they contain, which was gathered by the ousted President Hosni Mubarak's regime. In Egypt's capital, Cairo, thousands of Coptic Christians were carrying out protests calling for an end to discrimination that they say they face as a minority group. The protesters blocked the 6th of October bridge, chanting anti-discrimination slogans on Monday. There's also anger over a dispute between a Christian and a Muslim family that took place over the weekend. That dispute led to the deaths of 2 people. Now, the Egyptian steel tycoon and politician Ahmed Ez is due for a corruption trial in court shortly. He's a leading member of the NDP party that was led by Hosni Mubarak. He's alleged to have illegally made millions from cornering Egypt's steel market. Ayman Mohieldin reports.
From modest beginnings to one of Egypt's wealthiest tycoons, Ahmed Ez, now facing trial for corruption, moved up the political ladder at the same dizzying pace as he made his personal fortune. When the Egyptian economy shifted from state-controlled industries to privatized ones in the early 90s, Ez founded what would become Egypt's largest steel company. A wealthy businessman, a member of parliament, and a senior party politician, Ez came to symbolize what many Egyptians despised in the Mubarak era, the intersection of money, politics, and power. During his meteoric political and economic rise, Ez made powerful friends, none more notable than Gamal Mubarak, the former president's youngest son. It was their close personal relationship that cast a shadow on Ez's business dealings and led many to believe that wealth and power in Egypt went hand in hand in a vicious cycle of favoritism, corruption, and greed. After establishing himself as a loyal Mubarak and party confidant, Ez was tasked with developing the National Democratic Party's 2010 strategy in parliamentary elections that were widely marred with fraud, violence, and intimidation. But despite the criticism, Ez arrogantly boasted about the victory he helped mastermind that essentially saw all legitimate political opposition removed from parliament. Ahmed Ez was one of the most hated personalities of the Mubarak regime, and as it started to crumble, he attempted to fend off the mounting criticism.
There is no partnership with anyone in anything. The truth about this industrial group is that all my companies are registered in the stock market. I have no other work except industrial group, which more than 90% of its activity is in steel manufacturing. So any talk about partnership or profits has no basis of truth.
It proved a futile attempt. Ahmed Ez became the first businessman turned politician to face corruption charges. Many Egyptians are hoping he won't be the last. Ayman Mohieldin, Al Jazeera, Cairo.
Yemen's opposition coalition is vowing to ramp up the protests against President Ali Abdullah Saleh. This after he rejected a new plan that he should step down in 2011. Meanwhile, there have been more riots in the capital, Sanaa's main prison. Hashim Al-Bara is in Sanaa for us.
Violence broke out when inmates started chanting anti-government slogans, asking President Ali Abdullah Saleh to step aside. At that moment, security forces fired tear gas canisters. Gunshots were heard. We were told by an inmate that many prisoners were injured. However, authorities remain tight-lipped, saying that this has nothing to do with the political situation in Yemen. However, there is security has been beefed up outside the prison, which is one of the largest incarceration facilities in Yemen. This comes against the backdrop of increased tension here in the capital and also across the country. The opposition is putting more pressure on President Ali Abdullah Saleh to stand down this year. President Saleh still maintains his position that he is willing to resign in 2013 when his term comes to an end, and that before that deadline he won't respond to the demands of the opposition, and that the only thing he can offer is a national dialogue to try to work out a roadmap for a peaceful and stable future of Yemen, something which has been rejected by the opposition.
Shia Muslims in Bahrain have been pushing for more rights in their continuing protests directed at the Sunni royal family. And in the latest demonstration, around 200 Shia protesters have been rallying outside the US embassy, calling for Washington to stop backing the monarchy. Protesters have been camping out at Manamar's Pearl roundabout since last month, but their stand has won only minor concessions so far. In Kuwait, too, youth groups are calling for protests on Tuesday. As in previous protests, they want the Prime Minister to step down and greater freedoms. The Al-Sabah family has ruled the small Gulf state for more than 250 years, but political parties are not allowed there. Sultan Qaboos of Oman has ordered a major cabinet reshuffle following weeks of anti-government protests in that Gulf state. State TV is reporting the Sultan named several new ministers in key posts, including the person who oversees the economy. This move appears to be the latest in a string of concessions aimed at appeasing protesters who've been demanding more jobs and political reform. Now, in Tunisia, the interim prime minister has unveiled his new cabinet, and he's announced the disbanding of the country's feared secret police. This is the third caretaker government in Tunisia since the overthrow of Zine El Abidine Ben Ali in January. Nazanin Moshiri has more from Tunis.
It was billed as a new beginning, but the interim Prime Minister Beji Caid Sebsi admitted the key positions in government will remain the same. The difference now, a promise that not one member of the cabinet will stand in the next election, and security will be a priority.
We wanted it to be a caretaker government, but more importantly, a government which saves the country from this predicament.
One of the first moves of this new government, the dismantling of the so-called political police, filmed here by AlJazeera. A force which harassed and spied on Tunisians for so many years. The Ministry of Interior announcement came on its Facebook page. It just shows you how times have changed in Tunisia. This once hated institution is now using the same social sites which helped in the uprising to get its own message across. It's not clear how members of this once powerful security force will now react. The Prime Minister says this is a dangerous period for the country. His challenge now to take Tunisia to the next election and deliver the democracy people here fought and died for. Nazanin Moshiri, AlJazeera, Tunis.
A Mexican water skier has set a new world speed record for barefoot water skiing in Acapulco. Fernando Reina Iglesias was towed by a helicopter at 246 kilometers an hour. He beat the previous record speed of 217 kilometers an hour to become the world's fastest barefoot water skier. He's a businessman and politician. He said he wanted to do something positive.